The Dhammapada is an ancient Buddhist scripture, which is approximately 2,300 years old. The Dhammapada is like a handbook of wisdom from the Buddha. It's filled with short verses that teach how to be mindful, kind, and wise. In verse 7 of Dhammapada, Buddha says that, Subhanupassin viharantam, indriyesu asamvutam, bhojane amattanyu, kusitam hin viryam, tamve pasahati maro, vato rucham dubbalam. The meaning of this verse is that a person who indulges in external beauty and material pleasures, a person who does not control his senses, a person who does not maintain balance in eating food, a person who is lazy and makes weak efforts, such person cannot make spiritual progress. Such a person falls victim to evils and temptations, just as a weak tree is uprooted by a gust of wind. Once upon a time, in a small village situated at the foot of the hill, there lived a young boy. That boy was famous in the entire village for his laziness and avoiding work. All the villagers called him lazy because he used to lie under a tree all day long. He used to take naps while lying down and used to dream good dreams about his future all day long. That boy's days were passing in such laziness. But one day a Buddhist monk came to that village who was going to stay in the same village for the next 7 days. That Buddhist monk spent the whole day begging for food in the village and preaching Dhamma to the people. At night, he rests in the Buddhist monastery outside the village. Whenever that Buddhist monk went for begging food, and while returning, he would always find that young boy lying under the same tree. That Buddhist monk kept watching all this for a few days, and he understood that the boy had become a slave of mental laziness. The Mara has overpowered him. In Buddhism, Mara refers to the incarnation of temptation and distraction. Mara is often represented as a demon or a powerful negative force. When someone is said to have Mara overpowering them, it typically means they are mental slaves to temptations, distractions, or delusions that hinder their spiritual progress or practice. It symbolizes the struggle against inner obstacles to achieve spiritual awakening and liberation. On the last day, when the Buddhist monk were returning after begging for food, they went to the boy who was still lying under the same tree. The Buddhist monk told the boy, "Son, I have a job for you. I want you to go to the top of that hill and bring me a flower from there." Hearing this, the boy, while lying down, turned his head towards the hill and looked at its highest peak. Then he looked at the Buddhist monk and laughed and said, "This is impossible. I cannot go to the top of that hill. I am very lazy." The Buddhist monk smiled and said, "But the flower I am looking for will not be found even on the top of this hill. It will be found inside a cave on the other side of this hill. You will have to climb to the top of this hill and then come down to the other side of the mountain. But it is not an ordinary flower. You have never seen such a flower like this before. It is a very rare but beautiful flower that spreads its light." These words of the Buddhist monk aroused curiosity in the boy. He had never heard about such a flower before. And thinking about such an exciting journey, he became excited from within. That is why he decided to accept the challenge of the Buddhist monk, and he started walking towards the hill. But the climb was long and difficult. Soon the boy's body started getting tired. He became short of breath and started sweating heavily, but still, he continued walking. As he climbed higher and higher, he began to feel happiness and excitement, which he had never felt before. At last, when he reached the top of the hill after hard work and long effort, he was completely exhausted, but he was very happy. He was feeling a sense of self-satisfaction from within. There was a warrior-like smile on his face, as if he had won a war. He looked down from the top of the hill. There was a very breathtaking view in front of him. He felt a sense of accomplishment inside him, which he had never felt before. But the real challenge was ahead. The boy had to get down to the other side of the mountain and find the cave where the flower was said to be found. Getting down was even more difficult and dangerous, because the slope was steep and the boy had stumbled and fallen several times while climbing, so he was also afraid. But because of the promise of bringing flower to the Buddhist monk, he continued moving forward. After much searching and hard work, when he finally reached the cave, he saw that the flower was lying there, shining in the light coming from the entrance of the cave. He picked up the flower and was astonished to see its beauty. He kept staring at the flower for a long time. But then suddenly he remembered that he still had to go back. He looked at himself, and he was completely exhausted. He became worried about how he would climb the mountain and deliver the flowers to the Buddhist monk. For a moment, he thought of giving up, but then he remembered the sense of accomplishment and pride he felt when he reached the top of the hill. He realized that he had the strength and determination to complete this journey again. He started climbing the hill again. His muscles were aching, his legs were trembling, and his lungs were bursting. He stumbled and fell many times, but he did not give up. He was constantly motivating himself to move forward. After tireless efforts and hours of hard work, when he finally reached the Buddhist monk and placed the flower in his hands, his happiness knew no bounds. He felt that today he had overcome his laziness and had done something important. Seeing such happiness and satisfaction on his face, the Buddhist monk smiled and said, "Well done, my child. Today you have learned a very important lesson of life, that laziness is not something that can be accepted or tolerated. Laziness is a challenge that must be overcome. It is an obstacle that must be crossed. And to overcome laziness, you have to take your first step. Walk towards your goal and keep walking until you reach your destination." The boy nodded his head, understanding the depth and importance of the Buddhist monk's words. Today he realized that he was always capable of doing big and great things, but his laziness was holding him back. He now knew that he had the strength and determination to overcome any obstacle that came his way from now on. After this, the Buddhist monk blessed the boy and left the village. The lesson to learn from this story is that when we push ourselves to achieve our goals, even when they seem impossible, we discover a strength and determination within ourselves that we never knew we had before. In verse 8 of Dhammapada, Buddha says that the person who is not engaged in sensual pleasures, a person whose senses are under his control, a person who knows the right quality of food and also knows how to eat in the right quantity, a person who is not lazy, such a person cannot be shaken by Mara, just as stormy winds cannot shake a mountain of rock.